So this evening, as we start the book launch of none other than author Sabarna Roy, I am sure half of the city knows who he is. There's absolutely no need to, like tell every one of you after 13, 14 launches, you become a veteran, and Mr. Roy is one of them. So the book today is being launched by Rising Asia Circle, and we have with us Julie Mehta and also Harish Mehta sir. So I think Julie Di and Harish sir would like to say a few words about the literary circle, right, Julie Di?
Thank you so much. Welcome everyone. See lots of new faces and old ones. Many of us are from the Rising Asia Literary Circle. It's my great honor and pleasure to be here to support the author. More about that later because I have lots to say about that. But mostly I would say that Rising Asia Literary Circle, which is part of the foundation of the Rising Asia Foundation, is very pleased and privileged to have Smita Roy Choudhury with us, the editor of T2, who encourages amongst all the other dailies and newspapers and magazines and understands the importance of having arts speak to authors, publishers, and people with literary interests such as ourselves. And I welcome you all to this evening. Once again, an apology for the inconvenience, but we have never had a crowd as big as this. I'll hand over this for a second to my partner and husband, Dr. Harish Mehta, whose foundation we work under. And before I do that, I also want to say we are honored that this space, which is so sacrosanct, it is over 120-something years old, 1908 সালের বাড়ি, সেটাকে renovate করে 3টে ফ্লোরে Mr. Vishnu Sureka has done a marvelous job, and he's the host of this evening.
So thank you, Julie, and I very warmly welcome all of us. The Rising Asia Literary Circle is a part of the Rising Asia Foundation, which publishes a journal, an academic journal, and we do a distinguished annual lecture on foreign policy, inviting ambassadors from Singapore and Indonesia, ministers from Cambodia. Then we have, and then we publish academic and semi-academic books through Routledge in London and New York, which come out of the proceedings of the conference papers that we do. So we have the journal, which you can visit www.rajraf.org, this Rising Asia Literary Circle. Then at the end of the year, normally we have what's called the Rising Asia Summit, which we arrange with the Bengal Chamber of Commerce, which is a big all-day affair with many panels and speakers. And so we are continuing with our efforts, and I'm very happy that the literary part of the foundation is actually the most active and the most visible. And it enjoys your support, which we are very thankful for. So thank you very much. Thank you for coming. And I'm delighted that we are talking about Dr. Sabarna Roy's newest book, which I've read, and I recommend it for its amazing style, felicity of phrase, turn of phrase, language bordering on the poetic, and an extremely passion-driven story without, with a great amount of restraint. He has the art of telling a story in very spare and sparse language. And I think I was delighted to have read that book, and I look forward to his forthcoming works. Thank you, Sabarna.
Saheli.
Thank you, Julie Di. So this evening, as guests, who will be a part of the panel as well. We have Julie Mehta, we have Smita. Julie D has already introduced Smita, and I think there's no need to introduce her anymore because everyone knows who she is. I have, of course, the author Sabarna Roy, who is sitting right next to me, and I have Shuktara Lal, a very dear person. She is also a theatre personality, and I think that we are going to talk about not just about the book, but about a lot of things surrounding this book as well, because this is, as Harish sir just now said, is a book which is very, very different from the earlier books of Sabarna Roy. And I had the opportunity of editing his last 2 books as well. So I know how different this is. So first, I would like sir to felicitate the guests. Debjanidhi, yeah. And we would like to also call the publisher of the book. Very rarely we see, people standing at a book launch. But whenever it is Sabarna sir's book launch, it's always that people are standing, whether it be at Oxford or wherever. So I would like to ask Sabarna da to first, shall we do the launch of the book? Yeah.
Youth colors, nice and green. I think this book holds a very special place for Sabarna da. And I would like to ask him why. Because this book is dedicated to Sir's father. And we would like to hear from him about it.
Actually, this book is dedicated to Baba. He read all my books except this book, but on the deathbed he could see only the dedication page. He would always, for all the books I have written, he gave me a 3.5 star rating out of 5, and always told me that you write about normally the elite and the rich. I said, that's your fault, because you have ensured me a life of comfort and privileges, that I mix and socialize only with the rich and the elite. So he said, why don't you retire early, and whatever money you have saved, save it on touring India and understand the real problems of India and start writing about them. So, of course, I mean, he actually migrated from Dhaka in 1942 1988 for his studies in Calcutta. So, but at heart he was a village boy. So a person not writing about villages or the rural folk, he was not much interested in, but could be because I was his son. He at least gave me 3.5-star rating because I think that's an indication that I write well, because I didn't expect anything above 2.5 from him for the subject itself. Having said that, we lost him in January 22, and I very much wanted him to read this book, because this is the most political book that I have written till date, and it's a vista between 1984 and 2024, and starting with the assassination of Indira Gandhi and ending with the Lok Sabha election of 2024. And in between there is a private world between two individuals, a man and a woman. So it's interspersed, intertwined, the two stories are intertwined. So in this time frame I have also grown. I still remember the day when Indira Gandhi died. We were actually playing cricket with a tennis ball in Jadavpur on the lawn tennis court. We were playing cricket on the lawn tennis court. And the BBC news arrived that Indira Gandhi has been assassinated and there was a curfew in Calcutta. So we could not go home, so we decided, 10 of us, we decided that we'll stay at Shoibal's house, which was on Prince Anwar Shah Road, very near to Jadavpur University. So we did a ruckus the whole night. We didn't understand the significance of the death until the sounds of the riots in Delhi reached our ears. Of course, at that time, news was not that much edited to the extent which it is now. Also, BBC and other newspapers reported the riots in Delhi. Of course, the import of all these things we understood much later, much later. So in this journey between 1984 and 2024, my father helped me understand, beginning with a worldview that I grew later on, but the worldview has changed, has been revised a lot over a period of time, but I think it started with Baba, so that is why I dedicated the book to him. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I still remember, sir told me that I did this book in a rush. I published it in a rush because Baba is on his deathbed and I want him to see the book. So we can understand from where this book starts. Now, I would like to read a few lines before I go to Julie Di for the first question. Why I'm reading, you will understand, because I really want to give a perspective about the book. In Monsoon 2024, Kolkata journalist Sanjoy Sen opens a cupboard carton stuffed with old dispatches and letters from Anita, the friend who left for America. He builds an arrangement. Odd chapters reproduce his published clip files. Even chapters print their correspondence. Through assassinations, riots, Bhopal's gas leak, Babri's demolition, bombings, war, protests, demonetization, lockdown and farm encampments, the public record meets kitchen grief, friendship, and moral fatigue. Anita's voice, books, recipes, motherhood keeps him human across time zones. The novel shows how witness is made, what it costs, and why a byline can never be only work in a country without rest. So, Julie Di, I would like to ask you the book's name, a bit about the book's name. What is the box here and what is the byline here?
You know, this is really taking a lot of the mystery away from the author, because as a reader, I have the privilege to have a perspective which I can share with you, and I should not step on the toes of the author. Having said that, I will say that in the postmodern world, when we read, we remember the saying by a guy called Roland Barthes, who was a Frenchman in the early 1920s. And he said, with the death of the author comes the birth of the reader. So that is exactly what I'm doing today. Let me put it this way, Saheli. It's an excellent question. I had to read that title several times before I could make any sense of it, and then I found I didn't make any sense of it. And I said, I will wait to read the book, not just interview the author for Smita's Telegraph, because unless you read the book, this is a kind of story you can't blurb read the book and write a review, right, Smita? Having said that, even when you read the book, when you're reviewing the book, it is a very different story. You have to be objective. You have to tell the story as you see it, and there is no question of judgment. A good reviewer is an objective reviewer. You know, when I really understood the book and how it hit me was all of yesterday. I lived through some of the experiences that Anita and Sanjoy lived through. For 6 years, after I had met Harish, he left me in Bombay as a sub-reporter for the Illustrated Weekly, really alone because I'd come back from Australia. And he was headhunted to Singapore. All we could do at the time, there was no mobile phone, there was no getting on the internet. All we could do at that time is exchange letters. And I still remember, with my salary at that time, I had to walk to the Nariman Point post office. I used to work close by, and when I used to find that my letterbox had no blue air letter, my heart used to sink. This story brought back a very really lived experience for me. And what I can say to you is, the byline is an external construct. It is what face you show, the identity you show to the world. So it's a public face. The air letter becomes your private face. Secondly, to answer your question, Saheli, when I thought about it, the air letter is also a space in which your imagination is allowed to work. If it's the byline, you are writing a political story, an economic analysis, you're writing about an interview of a president of a country, you are interviewing a person who's on cocaine, who's trying to get out of that. But that is still your persona as a journalist. So there is some amount of restraint in that. What is fascinating about Sabarna Roy's book is I have read quite a few books. 84 Charing Cross Road, some of you might remember, or The Color Purple. Being a young woman, being raped, being slandered, being molested. But this is a kind of story which at once is showing you to look, as he says, to quote him, to look and not to look. So you train yourself to be yourself when you're opening your heart to the person you love, Anita, the girl who's gone and left him, or you become a strong person and become an archive for public events. So I will stop there, Saheli. Maybe we will come back in another way to the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie D. In fact, Julie D can analyze, a book in such a manner that, like, she is dissecting a specimen. So that's what I like about her. Sabarna, I would like to ask you one thing. What Julie D is talking about, this box and the byline, do you agree with her, or do you have anything to add about the name of the book?
I think I agree with her, because principally box is the is the carton where all his letters and bylines are stored. So in a way, box is a private space which he is actually ruminating after so many years, when he retires after the 2024 Lok Sabha elections, as a reporter, as a journalist, as a senior journalist. So he's looking through, and the byline I put because I wanted that there would be a dichotomy in the narration structure of the book, so that people understand there will be a private and a personal world, personal and a public world at conflict, which will take place here. Yeah, I agree with the Julie D.
Okay, now I would like to go to Smita, because a large part of this book is about the media, right? And she being in the center of it. How far do you think a reader will be able to relate to the kind of, like editions, paste ups, fax curls, carbon copies, which the book brings about? Because this is a world which I remember I saw in Telegraph when I joined in 1996. But within a few years, everything became computerized, and we didn't have these departments at all. So do you think it will bring a whiff of nostalgia also?
Thank you, Saheli. Yeah, the book totally, completely captures the nostalgia of media days when even I started my career. It is, it completely, captures a bygone area of media, because, paste ups and carbon copies and faxes, these are quite alien to a new generation of journalists today. So I started my career in the year 2000, beginning of 2000, with a newspaper called the Asian Age. And there, we would see that the paper would be produced physically, as in there would be people dedicated to cut up the columns on transparency sheets and then paste them on glass plates. And then the page was constructed, and those glass plates would be carried to the press physically to be printed. So that is how a newspaper would be produced. A district correspondents would send in the copies through fax. I mean, I'm sure here everyone will remember a fax machine, but I don't think the younger generation today has seen a fax machine. So they would send their handwritten copies through fax, and we at the desk would sit and, key them into the computer. Then I moved to Times of India in 2004. Even then, for quite a few years, I would remember that photographers would submit hard copies as bromides. Those pictures would go inside scanners to be scanned and then digitally produced and to be put on page. So yeah, that was those were the practices those days. But as Saheli said, that these are concepts which are completely obsolete now. So the way the media works now has undergone a sea change. There's kind of no relation, one cannot relate to that. So yeah, it totally captures the nostalgia of old media days.
I would like to ask Sabarna, from where did you get the idea of this old media days?
You see, in 1985, in Jadavpur, we were doing a movement against the management quota and hostel movement. And at that time, Diptosda from Statesman used to come to our college because he was given the university beat, and he used to come to our college and report about the movement, both from the student side as well as from the vice chancellor's side. Vice chancellor at that time was Mr. Monindra Mohan Chakraborty, a relative of Triguna Sen, a very handsome and a tall figure, and a very renowned man by himself. So, Diptosda, he found a lot of curiosity in my mind about the media industry. So he would take me to the Statesman house and actually showed me everything, how things were produced. And I memorized them. I would keep a diary note in my journals, and I think from there I have been able to produce what I have produced in this book. So a lot of credit goes to Diptosda. So he's no longer there now, but a lot of credit goes to him for the formation of the material formation of this book. Yeah.
Incidentally, Diptosda was our chief reporter, when we were in Telegraph. So you are bringing back a lot of memories, in fact. And as Smita was saying, in those days, what I find in the book as well, there were certain sounds in a media room, which we don't find these days at all. There was this, and not only the fax machine, from ANI and PTI, all the news used to come, even in the middle of the night, and that tick, chick, 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 this kind of a sound. So, so it was real fun. And I think this book has captured that. Yeah, absolutely. Not only cigarette smoke, the bottles and the glasses, after 6, and we were told that because you are intellectuals, if you don't drink, if you don't smoke, you never make a good journalist. In fact, I was told that because I didn't do either of it. That's why. So it was fun. I would like to go to Shuktara because I think she's the best person to read out a part of this book. Shuktara, if you can read the page, page 15.
Clip, The Daily Mail, Calcutta. Prime Minister assassinated, capital under curfew. Dateline, New Delhi, October 31st, 1984. In the minutes after gunfire at the Prime Minister's residence, the city held its breath and then forgot how. Should I stand? I mean, maybe if I to stand and. If you could stand, that'd be great. If I read like this, can you hear me?
No, you need that.
I need the mic. Okay. In the minutes after gunfire at the Prime Minister's residence, the city held its breath and then forgot how. Telephone lines hissed, streets filled and emptied. The smell of kerosene outpaced the evening news. Officials offered numbers. Families offered names. I remember how the machines on the production floor rattled with certainty, even as mine faltered. I was 24, freshly minted from Jadavpur University, 1983, Master of Arts in English. The certificate still smells faintly of chalk. And I mistook speed for clarity. The copy desk cut my best sentence, a mercy I only understood a decade later. Beneath that extra, a blue aerogram from Onita. The paper had paled to the timid blue of late winter sky, the stamp frayed. We were both still in Calcutta when she wrote it. Days before she would fly out to America on the strength of a GRE score that made professors slow down and look twice. She would begin a double master's in Shakespeare that turned almost inevitably into a PhD on Whitman. I read her letter again, mouthing the loops of her hand.
I think, Shuktara, part of the letter needs to be read also, because you know how that clip gives rise to a letter. Anita writes, Dear S, the city smells of paraffin and anxiety. At coffee house, the waiters carry cups like they are carrying weather. You will learn to look and not look at once. You already have. Promise me, you'll keep the slowness of these writers even when the page says hurry. So, you know, this is the best part of the book, you know, how it moves fast and again it stops somewhere, again it goes back. So, Julie Di, this book is written in a very different style, right? Unlike what Sabarna has written before, because there are clips, news clips, there are letters, there are other parts. So how do you think that for a reader, from the reader's perspective, I would like to know from you?
Another great question. This is what I do for a living. When a book comes to you on the desk, you're eagerly still waiting to open it and see, how is this author going to say the same old thing in a completely new way? And that is what I think this book earns its merits on. First, you know, when you see a writer like Sabarna, there is a kettle, there is a kitchen, there are 2 cups of tea, there is one person. Why? Because the persona of the mother, after she dies, is imagined by the writer in 1 cup. So the mother's presence is always in that cup. And the mother's presence is not the only presence. It is also the presence of Anita, who is far, far away, thousands of miles away. And this is where I think he builds an archive of words. He has metaphors, that is, a word that signifies something else. So, although you are reading about his feelings when Anita is not there anymore, he is configuring in his mind what it was when 2 of them used to go to the College Street coffee house, for instance, and the waiter is so used to seeing them both together that he automatically puts down 2 coffee cups. Words such as the Howrah Bridge, the Brooklyn Bridge, which Anita is more familiar with because she is in the US. Howrah Bridge because this is somewhere where the author is still living. The teacup, the way his mother used to mix turmeric reminds me of my grandmother, who I believe used to mix holud and lonka bata for her mache jhal. So, you know, there are those cultural mores which are so ingrained and pinned down that if you're a wary reader, attentive reader, you will know that the mention of the teacup, the day my mother died, you know, the associations of that woman. Anita, his love of his life, whom he never married, he says, because again, to answer Saheli's question, imagine, look at the humor in the man. I haven't read something which is so at once macabre and scary and so burlesque. He talks about how, you know, the tram conductor punched his ticket to that correct circle in the way it fell on his hand. His attentiveness to detail, the smell that is there in the kitchen, the way he imagines his mum. Anita never met his mum. But Anita says, I'd do anything to have a chance to have a conversation with her. So it is these breaks, these lapses, these forgotten spaces that the reader fills the story's narrative with. I personally have problems, Sabarna, as to why did he have to introduce the byline. I would have loved to hear the love story. But that's me. That's the romantic part of me. So each reader will find something different.
Yeah, and Julie, I would like to carry forward that romantic angle which you just now captured. Because here in the book, in a place he writes, it is not a conventional romance, though tenderness keeps brushing against the edges of what can be named. It is instead a sustained practice of attention. They remind each other to eat and sleep. They trade recipes and tram tickets, films and micro prayers, warnings and encouragement. So that is how romance has been introduced here. So I would like to go to Smita. Smita, newsroom romances. I know, and you also know why I'm asking you this question.
But surely, I mean, sadly, I have to say that the newsroom today is only a shadow of the old times. And, you know, particularly what changed was COVID-19. You know, the lockdown, work from home and hybrid mode that completely changed the scenario of a newspaper newsroom. It's no longer the bustling floor which would boom with voices and opinions and altercations and laughter. It's sadly no longer that place. So, you know, I think given the scenario of a newsroom today, unfortunately, there's little scope for a romance to unfurl. If you see my newsroom at the Telegraph, at any point of time, you would see, you know, that whole floor, surely 7-8 people will be sitting in their individual corners and just silently working and going home. So yeah, that is, unfortunately, that's the real scene. For the last 10 years into media. Yeah, but before that, yeah, you're right, yeah. It was very different. We used to see a lot of... which one? No. Mine was college, JU. Yeah, it was JU. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, we have seen many... started the job. But yeah, otherwise in the old days, of course, newsroom romance was a thing. But that kind of has died down now, the scope for it.
Basically, Sabarna has introduced a lot of dramatic, takeaways from this book. And I would like to ask Shuktara about it. Did you find the book dramatic?
I think, as someone who's read Sabarna's work before this, I feel like anything he writes will be dramatic. There is immense dramatic potential. And when I say dramatic, I don't mean dramatic in the general sense of it, but I mean the possibility of making it into a play and to dramatize it. Having said that, this question has really made me think about both where it lends itself very organically to the stage and where it would be challenging. So I know for sure that people like Anjana Di and Mallika Di would be familiar with Love Letters, the play by A.R. Garni. Some of you over here also would be familiar. So that's a very extremely popular, very well written play, which is about centered entirely on two people who write letters all through, and you're seeing them read out those letters on stage. So as you can connect then over here the sections involving Sanjoy and Anita, you don't need to change anything. They really can beautifully just be directed. You have two different actors playing and vocalizing those parts, obviously. I use the word vocalize because the words are very important. Sabarna really gives a lot of thought at culling words. And, when I say culling words, I mean culling sentences, thinking about phrasing. So pauses, emphasis, intonation, those would be very, that would have to be given a lot of weightage when you're dramatizing those sections. But I think when we're going to the other parallel part of the book, which is the clip files, that is tricky to dramatize the way it is. And I'll give you an example. Like, so because over here too, I feel like there are certain, it's still a little bit of an interior world. So even though there is, of course, there are these, it is public, I mean, you're obviously seeing the bylines, you're reading the clip files, but there are these sudden sort of authorial observations which are reflective, which require a slow pace, and which are much more for the readers, or much more lending themselves to the experience of reading as opposed to watching. So I'll give you a few examples of that. Like, for example, this is from the clip file Night Gas. We have, yeah. There are these notes that sometimes end the clip file. So you have this note, 2024 note. I bought a small bottle of eye drops and used it too often, as if tears could be outsourced. A line like this is too interior, you know, you want to sit with it, you want to read it by yourself, you want to, so it's meant for the experience of a novelist writing and a reader reading it. So similarly then, if you're going to, let me see if I can, yeah, okay. So this is little later on, nearing the end of the book. Again, from one of the clip files, spring. Rallies arrived with their old appetites. Security became a syllable repeated until meaning wobbled with repetition. We listened anyway, because listening is a job. All right, so these are just a couple of examples. So and again, like, keep in mind that I'm a director, so my head is immediately thinking about ways in which we can adapt it. I think that would be the word. But I would definitely be interested in the possibility of, say, bringing in a dramaturge and a director, and then having Sabarna perhaps rework those sections from the point of view of a playwright, keeping in mind that this is going to become a staged script, which I don't know, Sabarna is already nodding, so perhaps we have a stage work imminent.
There's so much poetry in that, and yet it is so practically grounded. The author writes to Anita and says, your two boys, and he knows that the two boys are somebody else's kids, but they've grown up now, and he says, make sure when they're on the bridge, you know, in the US especially, North America, the northern part, the weather is terrible. And we are always thinking, you know, traffic. So you're turning right, you're turning left before you make a turn. But he says, make sure that they look both ways. And it's not because of the traffic. It's because of the weather. It's these little twists that make for excellent thinking, and always, as Harish made a joke last night when we were reading it together, he says it's the box, and the byline is always out of the box. And that's the crazy part about, you know, playing with the English language, which I think is also obvious in the first book that we discussed, which was By the River of Life, and then of course Fragmented. You say something.
Yeah, can I say something?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. I think on a serious note, I would like to say one of my interests is to examine the zone between friendship and romanticism, which also includes sex, between two heterosexual man and a woman. I think that grey zone is very important. And that has not been examined in literature very well. I think because of which the first epistolary novel that I wrote with my earlier editor, Sita Bhaskar, Tara and Sandy, and that was based on a ballad that I wrote in 2009, because of which I put the man and the woman in at a distance, so that there is no probability of intimacy developing. So that I can examine, look at their gray zone very clearly. And as far as the language is concerned, you see, language flows very organically through your neural networks. So I don't know myself how the process is, because I'm not a linguist myself. So I would not be able to say that, but a lot of people have commented about my language, but I think the language is improving. The first book that I wrote was not as good as what I'm writing today. So it has been a learning phase, and the learning of working with all the editors that I have worked with. Yeah, thank you.
Sabarna, I would like to ask you another small thing after what Julie has said, and also Shuktara. These clips, news clips, which you chose, how did you choose it?
Well, these are the clips basically which affected me the most. But I did not, to be honest. And people who have read the book would, I don't know whether they will agree with me or not. I have not put my words into those clips. I have actually tried to be as objective as was possible for a reporter to give a balanced view of the events. And how I chose those events was also because they popped out of my diary, the journal that I write regularly. But between 1984 and 2024, I could in fact select many other clips as well. But of course, for me, I think India changed forever after the Babri Masjid demolition. That is why I put Sanjoy's mother's death coinciding with the Babri Masjid demolition. And before and after, the India has changed completely. That is what I believe. But if I had to actually put my views on these events, I think this book would be banned in today's India.
Yeah, now I would like to ask Julie Di, do you have any example of such a kind of a book, what Sabarna has written, in international literature? Can you...
I just think, Shuktara, you mentioned the, love letters. And I think that's a very, very important title. Because I've seen Ashok Vishwanathan and Tanya do this maybe about a year ago. Just brilliantly done. So all their lives, they've just lived together as kids when they were 10 years old or 12 years old. And then this woman moves away, but a very strong bond between them. And he's on the receiving end. So that way, this book is very similar. That Sabarna's on the, Sabarna's parallel. Sanjoy is on the receiving end. See how clever he is. What a smart writer. I'm often transposing the writer with the protagonist. So anyway, so I think in that way, he is similar, but in other ways. And one of the things I was going to ask Shuktara was, did you notice, Shuktara and Saheli, even Smita, how Anita mentions not once, but several times that she went and read his story that appeared in the microfiche. So he is making sure as an author that he's got her engaged in his public life as a reporter with a byline. I think that is extremely clever, because here he is building up an archive with those thin little aerograms that he's kept forever. And then there is the other archive, which is the public archive, which not only Anita, but the whole world has access to. And here I have a question for the author. And my question is very simple. It's a sad book, Sabarna. That's my opinion. I cried yesterday when I read your book. Takes a lot for someone like that, Smita harbors to review maybe a book a week for her to cry. But this really did do something to me. And one of the things I found was, did you go with the flow as you wrote the story that they were going to be separated and that there was such a strong, powerful thing tying them together from so far away? Or did you orchestrate it? Did you plan it? Different writers do it differently.
Normally, I chapterize a book before writing, and it is the prologue which I write first. And I do micro chapterization, and I know that I knew that I would have 36 chapters in this book, 18 devoted to bylines and 18 to epistolary romantic. You people are saying romantic, but I still feel they are not romantic letters. They are between two, in the gray zone, in that gray zone of distance. So so I knew that one will precede the other, and I chapterized accordingly, and then went ahead with the flow. You see, in Tara and Sandy, what I did was I was not very confident of writing from a woman's point of view, because of which I requested Sita, my earlier editor, who is a very well-known name in the world of editoring in India, so to write the woman's point of view. After a lot of persuasion, she agreed. So it was more of a, I would say, a very organic voice. Now people still write to me today to write a sequel to Tara and Sandy. But in this book, I knew that I cannot outsource it to another woman. I had to take the view of, I have to write from the woman's point of view. And then I started internalizing who best a man could be other than Robi Thakur himself, who could write from the vantage point of a woman most effectively. If you remember a short story by him at the age of 23, Konkal in Golpugucho, which is also a thriller, basically at the age of 23. So I started internalizing Robi Thakur, and I got that woman's voice, which is very different from a man's voice. So I think there, and I structured Anita's character with, although Harishda mentioned to me that you have totally, completely made this husband move out of the space that the readers have no access to. Now, pura maar diya. So that happens, in real life also it happens like that. So, so it was structured that way. Yeah.
So which one did you like better? Of the woman's voice or the man's voice while writing? Sanjoy or Anita?
Well, I am not, you see, I don't read much of my books, and I am not very comfortable with my books having written them. But this is a book, possibly because of the memory of my father, that I have an attachment to this book. To that extent you can say that whether I like Anita's voice, yes, sometimes I like to read Anita's letters, yeah, I like to.
So was Anita real ever? Excuse me, Devjani. Was Anita ever?
No, I have written lot of letters and long messages to Devjani, and she has also written the same to me, and we cherish those joint because those were not SMSs. These were in the days of they were handwritten letters and long messages. So yeah, I mean, but if you ask me whether Anita was real, don't ask me in front of my wife at least.
Oh, it still is. It's still in a it's still in the present tense. Okay, Smita, I would like to ask you, which as per you gives a bigger adrenaline rush? Is it the news clippings, the description of the newsroom, or the letters? Because the book actually ends with an unsent letter.
Yeah, the book does end with an unsent letter, but whether the letter writing wins or the newspaper reports win in this book completely depends on each reader. You know, whichever works for them. So for Julie, the takeaway clearly from the book are the letters and the love story that it creates. But, you know, I must confess that I am not a reader of non-fiction. I love reading fiction, and particularly I love reading love stories. But very surprisingly for me, in this book, I really enjoyed reading the newspaper reports, because I think they have captured the socio-cultural and socio-political milestones of the country over multiple decades. It's done it beautifully. And, you know, parallelly runs the narrative of Anita's and Sanjoy's lives. So it's kind of this juxtaposition of the private and the public, which is the beauty of this book. Also, you know, here this reminds me of the movie Forrest Gump, where we see that Forrest is running through all the socio-political milestones of American history, while his life and his love life is progressing at the one end. So this is a juxtaposition which is the beauty of the book, Saheli. Also, I think somewhere this juxtaposition conveys the message that life goes on in spite of all the crisis that's you know, unfurling all around you in the world. In spite of the bigger crisis, life goes on. Also the fact that, you know, the small joys, like experiencing the first snow of the season for Anita, is very as real as the bigger tragedies that are unfolding in the world. So, you know, it's this balance, the bigger crisis and the harmony in their lives. It is the balance that is the beauty of the book.
Also, if I may just put through here that, you know, Smita's a great mother, which some of you don't know. And what struck me was that lovely vignette when Anita writes to you and writes to Sanjoy and says, don't, you know, I'm so... You're in trouble.
He's in trouble.
He is in trouble. So what struck me was that the boys had gone away to campus. But that one small paragraph where the boys come back for the summer and the house, which didn't have a smell, now smells of baking. I thought that was so on the money, you know. You can really see that happening in North America.
Sabarna does, you know, most books do have, right? All the elements of food. Last time also we discussed about it, and you know, they are written in a very, very different manner. Shuktara, I think we should sum up the evening with you reading the unsent letter.
And then we'll open it up to the audience.
Letter unsent. Kolkata. Brooklyn, or its cousin, July 24. Dear A, I have stacked the boxes and taped their lids, like a clerk who finally trusts his own filing. The labels do not try for poetry. 1984 to 1993, 1993 to 2004, 2005 to 2016, 2017 to 2024. Paper prefers numbers. Between the folders I have left small interleaves of what our kind calls life. A tram ticket with a bite of rust. The bus coupon with the rhombus punch. Your first aerogram. The recipe that insists on mustards, patience. The handwriting lesson where my mother taught rice to confess. A printout of the librarian's card with my press pass number written inside Premchand. I thought the day I turned in the card would feel like subtraction. It didn't. It felt like the city handing back time in small change. I came home and boiled water And because dramatics have their place, and should be kept small, I poured 2 cups and drank both. The balance was ceremonial, not greedy. The desk threw me a cake. I returned the favor with a comma. We were even. I have decided to keep working, but on a timeline the paper cannot publish. Mornings for the neighborhoods that don't need me, afternoons for the letters that do. Evenings for the bridge that will accept us without a reservation. I will still carry the old rule into the market. Facts first, compassion second, order optional. The stall with the coriander understands the sequence. I have one confession, and it is late but not new. I did not marry because the letters were already a house, and I live conservatively. If I have been brave at all, it is only in the direction of verbs. To arrive, to listen, to leave without a speech. You taught me how to do the first 2. My mother taught me how to do the last. This unsent page contains the sentences I could never print, and the ones I printed by mistake. We are not neutral between absence and air. Mercy is logistics. The kitchen is a parliament that always has quorum. A bridge is a meeting arranged by stone. Bring the scarf. I will bring the pen that believes in nibs. We will trade recipes and benches. We will annotate a river the way we once annotated the margins of Lear, with respect for weather, with suspicion of kings. I do not ask for blessings from anyone who isn't here to grant them, but I will permit one superstition. When we take the first step onto the bridge, somewhere a kettle will begin to boil on time. S.
So we are going to take a few questions from the audience. If
Actually literally forced the book down 5 people's mouths. So in advance I apologize. But Harish and then the Rising Asia Circle people who read because they like to read, we want to hear the questions and then floor. Harish, please go ahead.
Thank you. Dr. Roy, the character of Sanjoy Sen is a joyless character. There is no mirth or happiness in him. He lives through letters to that lady. He goes to work, but you give no evidence of the man, for example, of having friends. He has no bunch of guys he goes drinking on Sunday nights or Saturday nights. He's just boiling the kettle. He goes to the coffee shop. The bearer brings 2 cups. He drinks both. Right? There is no happiness. And then in the last scene, he goes to the bridge. I thought, is he going to commit suicide now? Because you don't bring him back. The bridge, when you introduce a bridge, it's like introducing a shotgun in a book. It has to be used. These bridges in Brooklyn and Howrah are not just for sightseeing. So tell me, did he jump off? No. I mean, this is what the reader thinks. You sent him there, and the way he leaves home to go to the bridge that day, he doesn't follow the normal routine, He leaves in a bit of a hurry, forgetting some chores or something of that.
He tells the milk boy, Archie.
Yeah, but you said that he doesn't do something. Something is amiss. And I got the feeling that he's leaving in a hurry. And I thought that, okay, ab to ho gaya bas. Abhi वापस नहीं आएगा.
Well, suicide I never contemplated for Sanjoy because Sanjoy is still there in this room, in a way. So I don't contemplate suicide for Sanjoy, of course. But you know, happiness, unhappiness. You see, life is a great struggle in a way to keep unhappiness away from your soul. Books are a way to keep unhappiness of others seeping into your life. Your own work, your own relationships, and unfortunately after this man, Sanjoy, has been very close to his mother and Anita, his friend. In that sense, he has been loyal to two persons and devoted to two persons all his life. How many people are devoted to more than one person or even one person? You can count on your fingers and still can't get names through. So in a way, he's a very strong character. He gives happiness to Anita. He gives happiness to his readers by writing about India's various historical events. He's a witness. So we can't expect happiness or unhappiness from a witness. He stands stoic. He stands stoic. So you can expect stoicism from Sanjoy, but not very bumpy happiness in the book. Yeah.
Nicely answered. Saheli, can we ask Pranita to say a few words? Question, whatever, comment.
Good evening. I don't have a question, but many of the things that we discussed today that came to my mind. The first thing that struck me was this new kind of invented form. It's a totally different form, which I felt is hinged on contrasts, on juxtapositions. So there is this external world of news and newsroom, and you have the extreme private space of the letters, and they are building, the characters are building a house out of it. So they are inhabiting that house through the letters. That was one thing that struck me. And obviously the personifications, the metaphors, many of them are very fascinating. There is one where the city forgets to breathe and then out of stubbornness teaches itself again. Some of these are like, they literally jerk you out of the regular thought. Then there is arguments dressing themselves up in new acronyms. So various things, while I was reading, like I wanted to actually underline them, keep a note of them. But there was this one thing which ma'am was speaking about, which like I liked the most, is that it is an unfinished, as you've written, it's the oldest, you are my oldest unfinished conversation. The Sanjoy and Anita. So one writes to the other, Sanjoy writes to Anita that you are, and I am your oldest unfinished conversation, you are mine. And this is going to continue as till the kettle retires. So that was something I could, it was more than fulfillment. In that sense of leaving it unfinished, I felt it was very complete. And it is very much, it gives us an access to this pixelated postmodern world where we do not have these wholesome experiences. They're always in parts and they're jarring us. So to a great extent, I definitely, like ma'am, I love the letters more, and I went back and read the letters again. So I felt that it was a very different kind of an experience and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you.
Saheli, may we call upon the only haiku writer we have in Kolkata, who's a published haiku writer. I don't know if she'll answer or would like to speak. No, chap, but would you like to say a few words? Please state your name.
Hello, I'm Sharupa Chatterjee, and I do know him. And I have a question which, as I was reading this book, the convergence of, I've written it down too, the convergence of the Babri Masjid demolition and the narrator's mother's death is profoundly striking. Was this juxtaposition meant to suggest that history is always experienced through the body and the home?
Yeah, true. That's why I made it happen like that. His mother's death coincides with Babri Masjid demolition. That's very true, what you pointed out.
And does that mean that history is experienced always through the persona?
Yeah, of course, of course.
Thank you and congratulations. So we've discussed the book entirely and so many perspectives. It was prose and poetry coexisting in the book. So the two experiences were moving simultaneously of an anthology and a novel coming together. Like Harish, I was also looking for something light, a little bit of mirth and some fun, but that was kind of not being explored by the author, and not in the lives, and looking for more romance, more meat in the romance between Anita and Sanjoy. But again, you know, I think probably that was by design. And maybe we can look forward to an anthology of poems from you, because that is obviously a very strong point in your writing skills. And it had the texture which was not quite so English, you know. It was a lot of Tagore-like expressiveness in the poetry part of it. I mean, in Anita's letters more so. Yeah, so that's what I identified when I was reading, and it had that texture. So I think, I mean, we can look forward to something like that from you in the future.
One thing I would like to say, that if you're so much interested in romance, don't coax me. Why don't you have a romantic relationship yourself? It's a good time to have a romantic relationship. So, and as far as the letters are, well, I used to write poems at one point in time, but I think writing prose is more difficult than writing poetry. You know, that for sure, that's for sure. I mean, writing like T.S. Eliot or like Whitman or Osip Mandelstam or others, I mean, that's something different. That's very different. But I'm saying generally writing poetry is much easier than writing prose, because prose needs specificity, details. It needs experience. If you don't have the experience, as I told you, my father wanted me to travel India much more than the cities, because I don't know about the rural life much better. It's a second-hand or a third-hand experience, which I would tell you that even Satyajit Ray depended on good literature, Bengali literature, because he himself said that I have very little first-hand experience of those lives. He didn't have the experience of Sadgati, so he depended on Premchand. So likewise, yeah.
So Julie, no, I think she's, will you want? Okay.
Hello, I really enjoyed listening to the conversation today. I am Swati Mukherjee. This is an observation also, that I felt a sense of identification at certain points in the book, because it was like, you know, take out water from a flowing river. I mean, it is in a state of flux. It does not stop anywhere. The movement is on. And the metaphors which came to my mind is something like a railway track. For instance, a nation is unfolding, the cityscape is unfolding, an internal landscape is also being discovered and rediscovered. And another word which Another idea which really struck me was a sense of restraint, as it was discussed today. The author does not impose himself into the text so much that the reader is kind of intimidated or something. The reader can also participate in so many of the events and identify with them, and there is a lot of subjectivity. When you are reading it, the reader can go on in the same journey at certain points of time. Some of them are national events or maybe city events, but there is also an internal journey that the reader takes along with the writer. So that was my takeaway from the book. Thank you.
Please? Would anyone like to just... Yes. Hi, Varnali. Lovely to see you here. Thank you. Our short story writer.
Good evening, Dr. Roy. And I have not read the book as yet, but I am also a writer, and I can identify with the themes very well, because I have myself written a novel which spans over 4 decades of India in transition. And there again, the backdrop where, you know, the Bhopal gas tragedy is occurring, or the Delhi riots, or even Babri Masjid, and the Hindu-Muslim riots after the Mumbai tragedy. Those things form the background. Now, the point is that when you are talking about those things and you are juxtaposing the personal with the political, you have to take a stand where you sort of step aside and let the story itself take its own course. Has that ever happened to you, sir? I mean, where you have, sort of led the flow, lead you on, rather than what you had thought earlier, decide the story?
Yeah, I think, you see, basically one chapter alternatingly devotes to the journalist's work, and the other epistolary letter writing, okay? So the characters speak for themselves. Like a journalist cannot take my view on Babri Masjid and start writing. He or she has to be objective. So in a way, if you say whether I have taken my own stand on these events, I would say no, but an intelligent reader would understand where I stand. That intelligent reader would understand, and I would request you to spend some money and buy the book and read it for yourself. You will understand it. Anybody else?
Yeah, the book is available there. Yeah, so if you need a signed copy, after this event is over, you can kindly get it from there. And
first of all, warmest congratulations to you. I just started reading the book yesterday itself, and I think I just could not put the book down. I'm one person who's completely divorced from any kind of politics, but I think the chronicles that you've put up with, I think it's got a little sprinkle of a little humor, and the way you express it. I think when you touch on, I think I've marked out in a couple of lines just because time is so short. And I just want to read some of it, but till I find it. So I think it's so beautiful the way you've written about rumor. What a rumor is, it's absolutely sheer poetry. And there is so much in between those layers, because it's not just a short, terse phrase, but there are so many layers that you delve within that, and it brings and it's so cinematographic. The images are absolutely fabulous. And many times you read this sheer poetry, as I said, those little poetic, like phrases, short little things, it's just absolutely catches your breath. And I think these are little moments of oasis, I think, or a space of oasis where when you're on one side writing about the political scenario, the assassination of Indira Gandhi, and then it's interspersed with these little phrases of yours, which, you hold your breath, you take the pause, and you delve within that. I think that is the sheer beauty of the book, how you've merged the prose, which is, again, not a dry prose. It's a prose which is absolutely poetic. And I think, the letter writing definitely caught my eye, as I think letter writing is an art which has completely vanished. You don't, these days, even, in this thing of digitization, you don't even like to write anything, So it's, to sit, to pause, to be able to think, to be able to bring out everything, that you are meditating through what you are writing. I think that is another aspect which I loved. And I loved the subtle, their relationship. Because, it's not romantic, but as Pramita said, it's a complete relationship where I think you go beyond that phase of being romantic. It's like you're completely at peace with each other. You're completely at home with each other. And I think that has its own, its own intimacy. And I think that is something so precious to have, and it's simply, simply wonderful. So thank you for this lovely book of yours. Thank you.
But I imagine, why don't people say sheer prosaic and not sheer poetic? Because, for prose writers to be compared with poets is a bit of a fallacy. But yeah, at the same time, I understand from where you are coming.
But prose and prosaic are not the same.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, I can understand. I understand from where you are coming. It also has been a bit of a difficult book to write, in a sense that I had to keep pace with writing, because I was also aware about my father's health timeline. And secondly, about letter writing. I tell my children that I'll write you emails, reply to them. They say we don't have any time to reply to your letters. So that's a kind of a tragedy today, that people don't respond to letters. In fact, when Sita and I started on the work of Tara and Sandy, I would write a letter one day and she would respond the letter, and we said that we will not talk in between, so that it's absolutely organic. I'm talking about the novel Tara and Sandy. So that it's absolutely organic. We'll not talk, discuss and jeopardize each other's writing or negotiate with each other's writing. And that's why I would say it myself, the book became such a success story. So what I'm trying to say is, yeah, we have done away with letter writing. Even emails could be good. If I could write an email to you and you reply, that would be so wonderful. But, people don't have the time to reply to emails also.
I think the word you use, negotiate writing, that has come into it. So you think of the effect your word will have and a possible response to it before you frame your letter. So that takes away the joy of letter writing. Yeah. Or framing a mail, or it's less organic, it's more deliberate, manipulated.
Yeah.
In our times we had something called pen pal.
Yeah, yes.
And we used to write letters back and forth, friends living in different parts of the world.
See, I was, when in 1978, my first article got published in Target magazine, which we used to subscribe to, and they asked us to have pen friends. But for some reason or the other, my father was migrated from Punjab to Calcutta, And then I could not keep with the pace of creating pen friends, but that's a wonderful thing, hobby, and you can have so many friends all across the world and learn so many things about the world, which today, of course, you have internet. So I mean, internet, AI, and so many things. So you know it at one go.
Yeah, these days we have dating apps, so naturally romance has vanished. So I would like to ask all of you to kindly buy the books if you can, if you would like to read. And though I was a moderator, I would like to sign off this evening by saying one thing, that this particular book, Sabarna Roy's Last Letter, which Shuktara has also read out, actually to some extent reminded me of Tagore's Shesher Kobita and the Last Letter. I mean, that book also ends with a letter. So thank you so much for being a wonderful audience, and kindly, okay. Yeah, sir will also sign the book.
This is a little different. I'm just summing it up. I've just written 2 lines for you. In this book, Box and the Byline, you've got to read it in between the lines, and you'll feel just fine as you sip a glass of wine, be it moonlight or sunshine.